You know, I would prefer immune to abnormal statuses, which would include revive unavailable, right? He's a dragon, he's a god, you know, like that would have made him obnoxiously destructively great. Probably too great, to be honest with you, but that would have been great. But he is slow. So when we go into the gear, right, as you can see, I geared mine very, very well. Just phenomenal gear. I still don't really understand. This is kind of him as a young man, and then, you know, he gets more armor, and then he gets the rocket boosters. I still think his design is just phenomenal. I love his design. I don't know if it's in here somewhere, but it says that he was researching immortality and stuff like that, but I just don't know if this is the before the big dragon or after the big dragon. Anyway, you guys let me know. So Haspiel is probably regarded as one of the worst characters currently that got released. He's like, Maya, darling, please move over. Like, Maya has some actual like functionality to her, but Haspiel over here, this guy, man, there's nobody vouching for this man right now. Nobody. I saw, like, you know, I'm looking at his kit and I can say, well, he can kind of do this, he can kind of do that. So what we're gonna do here is discuss what he is good at, and just a little heads up, because I know some people were asking me, what is his ignition? That's what it's called, right? Ignition. How does it work? I have one test that I can show you guys a little bit later in the video how it actually works, but that is about it. So let's just start off with the beautifulness that is the leader skill. Increases fire allies attack by 80% if the party has 5 heroes. It seems that this is just a trend. Again, they're boosting it up. First it was like 50 or something like that, like the first ones, and then now it turned up into 60, and now it's 80. Really just trying to boost up fire damage. Again, only really gonna see this on mono teams, usually for dungeons. You're not really gonna see it in PvP. I mean, you might see it, but I just highly doubt that you're going to. Then we're gonna go to the flames of destruction. All attacks become critical strikes when attacking enemies with ignition. 100% chance to reset the caster's skill 3 cooldown, and 80% chance to apply ignition equal to blah 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 to each enemy for 3 turns when an enemy revives. So this is really, really good. The only thing is I am going through the passives first. Usually I go through the skills first. These are the only 2 things that leave ignition, and this one is, it turns 3 turns on, where is it, here, level 3, which is really good, right? And I'll explain why it's good. And then this one is, damn, all the way till 6. That's kind of rough. But pretty much you attack with him, you use the S2 and the S3, get the ignition, and then you just start critical striking these people, which is really, really good. What's going on, guys? It is time to discuss the man that is Haspiel. Does tick damage. Well, let's just read it here, right? Since it's right here. Takes damage each turn. Affected hero's element, defense, and damage increase and damage decrease statuses do not apply. What that actually means pretty much is that this is a, I guess some people have theorized before that damage over times have like they go through some type of defense scaling or something like that. Pretty much what this says is that this damage over time does not do that. It's pretty much, without a better way of saying it, it is a ignore defense-esque damage over time. Still sucks, and damage over time is just still not that great in this game. It is good, as you know, with Ebb and Wound. It would be great if this was like Ebb and Wound, it couldn't be removed, but this one does a lot of damage. This is pretty much all it's saying. But as you guys know, damage over time does not kill. Rest in peace, Junia, because Junia was going to be like, she has ridiculous bomb damage, and then I don't know. I really think that bomb should kill. Anyway, looking at the passive 2, then he becomes immune to revive unavailable, which means that he can pretty much always, without a shadow of a doubt, be revived over and over and over again. And also applies enhanced life, which is this thing, which is actually called a buff, but it cannot be removed, and it gives him 500% to the caster for 5 turns at the start of the wave. So even when he gets revived, he does not get this. I think that would have made it really, really good if upon revival he gets his immortal form for maybe a shorter amount of turns, not 5, but it would have made him stronger, a lot stronger as a character. So this just allows him to just be revived all the time, and this just gives him 5 turns of greatness, you know, that he's gonna stay alive for a long time. And also, which is cool, I kind of skimmed over it, right? 100% chance to reset the caster's S3 cooldown. So his S3, which is this thing. But oddly enough, the 60% chance to apply it here, and the same thing is here, 60% chance. This also turns AoE later on. It's just kind of weird that he does counter revive, so then you're thinking automatically one thing revives. Remember, it just says that when an enemy revives, he's gonna ignition all of them. Each enemy for 3 turns, 80% chance. This is actually written correctly. 80% chance to apply to each enemy when someone revives, which is actually really good. But it's only good in places where there's going to be enemies constantly reviving. So in that regard, that would be like Nikita's dungeon with the hogs. If you keep killing them and then they revive, but why would you bring him into Nikita's dungeon, where the way that Nikita's dungeon works is that if you bring an element that's not water, it kind of goes like the hogs just go ape shit. But I mean, like, I guess he can take the damage, you know, in the beginning, but Nikita's, you just rather bring the water units in there. So I'm not really understanding why this would be a thing. Now, if you go PvP, yes, there are characters that revive. It will definitely do a number on Rue, because Rue only takes off abnormal statuses. You know, there is some stuff you can do with that, but you know, Karen will kind of knock this out of the park. Karen counters the hell out of him. You know, other characters that have like revives and then they, you know, get a turn or something like that. Etika is going to revive and still stun him because he doesn't have any way to block the stun. So yeah, let's just go to the skills. I'm just trying to theorize like where this would be good. It's clearly good in PvP with, you know, Etika, Rue, a lot of characters that have like these revives, and he'll pretty much be there to constantly put damage and stuff like that. So the S1 is pretty bare bones. It does get ignored defense here on level 3, which makes it a dramatically better move, but that's pretty much all the S1 is. There's nothing really fancy to it, no fancy stuff to it. Now the S2 is where you first see the ignition, and it is a cone attack that at level, where is it? Level 6, all the way at the end, it actually becomes a full-on AoE attack. So he gets actually 2 AoEs, and I think this is a, you know, 192 is pretty good, but like I just said, this one is really important. Level 3 is probably the one you probably want to focus on first, because 70% chance to put a 3-turn ignition is really good. As you know, he crits when they have ignition, so you want to have ignition on these targets as much as possible. And then as you can see, boom, and then once it hits all enemies, that's really good, and it's 3 turns, damage over time, really taking like crazy. Then you have Terminate, one of the super duper illa skills in the game. We'll show it later. I like to show all the skills at the end. And boom, this gains penetration at level 3. It already hits all enemies, so boom, 90% chance, again 3 turns. Sadly, this only gets 3 turns at level 6, and then it actually goes down a cooldown. But you also know that if something revives, he automatically gets the S3. So if you're thinking about putting him against revive comps, then obviously the S3 is going to be what you want to do, because he's just going to be able to S3. He doesn't gain a turn. He is relatively slow. We'll look at his base stats, and we'll see that he's relatively slow. So that's going to be a kind of a for him as far as like how he works. And since he is slow, I'm going to have to recommend a specific build because he is a slower character. But that is it for his skills. Let's just go straight into the gear. What will we put on this man? So here is his base stats. Sorry, let me prove it. This is mine. It's 58, level 58. The base stats don't really change outside of the attack and the HP once he's finally like 60. But what you, like I said, we all know, as I've said many of times, that the base attack and the base HP and the defense and of all SSR attackers is going to be the same. So the only thing we're looking at here is the attack speed, which is 539, and that is really slow. That is really slow. The closer to 600 you are, the better you are. You're gonna get your turn. I mean, yes, he has this to allow him to actually stay alive and get his turns and do his damage, but he's just so slow in a meta of a game where people are going first and getting extra turns and putting debuffs and stunning him. And you know, I would prefer immune to abnormal statuses, which would include revive unavailable, right? He's a dragon, he's a god, you know, like that would have made him obnoxiously destructively great, probably too great to be honest with you, but that would have been great. But he is slow. So when we go into the gear, right, as you can see, I geared mine very well, just phenomenal gear. I'm actually going to suggest something like this. Don't mind the defense. This is actually my gray. He has one of the better multi-strike rune sets that I have here. That's kind of what I would suggest with him. Multi-strike, and then this instead would be like revenge. Multi-strike and counter. The reason why is because you're going to be S2ing and S3ing with Haspiel, and then once you S2 and S3 with him, then you're going to leave the ignition, and that's where it's going to lead to your critical strikes. Now, I do normally say, oh, if you can get critical strikes, you know, automatically then you go crit damage. He's a special case because the way that he kind of does his thing, it's going to be really hard for him to actually proc this, because he gets a turn, right? And I feel bad because I put this in the S1 and I didn't really think about that. I should have put that. Anyway, so he gets a turn, right? So he finally gets a turn. He finally gets a turn, right? So he has to S2, S3, land this debuff, right? Land the ignition debuff. And then on top of that, he has to wait another turn. On, like, depending on who he is, it's only 2 turns. So if for some reason he gets stunned, like I said, he really can't get off that critical strike damage unless someone else gives him a turn, like Karen. It's really hard. He's only gonna maybe get 1 critical strike off if you think about it, because that character's gonna go, right? So he goes, he puts the ignition debuff on them, then they go, it's 1 turn left, you know, to get that critical strike in, and that just doesn't seem that great. Obviously, if this passive goes off, yes, oh baby, yeah, something died, but who's gonna kill him? He's not gonna kill him. He needs someone else to kill him, and then they revive, and then they have ignition on them for 3 turns, and then he can critical strike on them for at least 2 turns. So that's just not that great. Like, the way his kit works is just like kind of really weird. It just doesn't mesh that great. It just doesn't. But like I said, I would suggest crit damage as a main rune set once you get maybe this up to level 3 and beyond, obviously, and then your ignition is sticking for longer. You know, or if he even had a debuff extender like Elizabeth, maybe, but geez, man, his kit is just it's awful. It's so bad. So yeah, let me just go over to the hero talents. All right, hero talent, nice and easy. Don't think that this needs to be crazy. Therefore, of course, we're gonna go with the attack. His thing scales of attack, and like I said, his ignition does do a lot of damage. So of course, you want the highest attack possible. Nothing here really matters. Don't worry about that. Next up, arena or bosses. I would just say he's pretty much an arena monster. I can't suggest this because where you're gonna use him in Kali, I guess he has 2 cone. He has a cone, then he also has an AoE, which would definitely be okay in Kali. You're not going to use him in Sid. There's just really no purpose of putting him in Sid. And this thing is only if your S2 is on a very, very low cooldown. So yeah, so pretty much I think you're going to go with arena. He's an arena monster, in my opinion. Defense thing here, yes, you can probably go with the burn thing, but no, just make it more defense. He has a lot of HP in the beginning, so just abuse the hell out of that. Same thing here. Damage taken in arena. You could argue with this, he does have a decent amount of HP. He's not gonna die, so this actually would be pretty good. Again, increases attack even more because his dot does a lot of damage. And then last but not least, crit strike damage versus crit chance. He does have auto crit damage, like to do a crit strike. So I would actually go with this. In the magical world where you do actually get that critical damage, it will do more. I wouldn't really go with this because he actually has penetration in his kit once you start leveling him. So might as well just keep it locked on here and then you should be good to go. Alright guys, now I'm going to actually go into the time space void. This is probably the best place that I can show you what his ignition does. So as you guys know, if you're very familiar with how this game works and how the time space void works, they're gonna get a debuff. I have to explain it because I can't just act like I'm talking out the crack of my ass. You'll notice that with this stupid thing that they have, I've always hated this, that this thing lowers damage reduction and things of that nature. So when we actually hit them, okay, cool. This is exactly what I wanted to show. So when you had hit them, it was 1 damage, right? So it didn't do any damage because it's off element. He's fire, they're water. Only thing that's going to do a lot of damage to them is going to be wind. That's how these dungeons are worked. But you will see that the tick damage on there will actually negate it because that's what works. And I want to also show you, I'm going to give him an extra turn. That what I thought, and this is what I would assume, that like the person that has it, see affected heroes element defense, I thought that he would do more damage to these targets if they have ignition on them, but that is not true. As you can see, 1 damage, but see 11,000 there on that tick, 11,000 there, and you see that it does the same damage across the board, right? And that's just how that works. That is how the ignition works. It is a really strong, it does not matter at all. As you can see, it doesn't matter what you have on you. It doesn't, you know, if there's anything that lowers damage. I want to test it also on maybe a damage immunity. Aha, I actually can test it. Sophia actually has a damage immunity shield. If I can time it up properly, I actually might be able to get the debuff and then see if it procs to the damage immunity. Here we go. See, look, it procs through damage immunity. Here we go. See, look, it procs through damage immunity. So that kind of makes it like a little bit better. Like, so they can't really do anything. Like, I guess they can't shield it. I do, for some reason, I feel like damage immunity. No, I think damage immunity would block other debuffs as well, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty 100% sure on that. If you had damage immunity or a shield, it would tick on that first before it goes like directly to your health, as you saw. Like that went directly to their health. And I can even show you guys here. Hopefully, when I get a turn right, like you see that this is the bleed. This is the the ebon wound that Ashley puts on these characters. This is the bleed that my lust put on them, and you'll see that they tick for 1 damage. I just want to further like really showcase it, like that I'm not lying. Not lying here, not trying to fool you guys. So that is the boy Haspiel. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I try to do my best to explain what I think would be good and what's bad about him. Really bring him up to light. He's not that bad of a character, but he's definitely not as good as his counterparts, which makes him, I guess, inherently bad. So yeah, this the S1 kind of channels the energy, chucks it. S2, kind of like that little swirl, and here goes the S3. Like, just take that. Yeah, and just all that gorgeousness, and it's like, oh, this guy's so hard to use. But like I said, there's definitely some implications where you can use that ignition, where you can drop that and just, especially once you actually build him and his attack is much higher. Remember, mine has absolutely no runes on it, still ticking for 11,000. So imagine these guys that might have him, you know, fully purpled, high attack gear, and just doing insane amount of tick damage. And that's pretty much, you know, unscaled tick damage, 300%. Yeah, 300% of his attack. So you can't slack on that. That is a lot of damage. It's actually, when I was using Junia, it was a really good thing too, and that's every turn. So that's 2 turns or 3 turns. Junia's thing only ticked like that on when it actually, like, at the end of the duration of the thing. This one's ticking every turn. So even if you were to get like Elizabeth and team up with Elizabeth or anyone that extends debuffs, this is going to be ridiculous. So he does have a good team comp that you can bring with him. You know, you can't hide behind shields or damage immunities. He plus has penetration plus that. So yeah, he's going to leave people with 1 HP. That's the only thing I don't like about damage over time. If it killed, it would be amazing. It'd be phenomenal, but it just doesn't. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.